that we've made it into the building. We're just working our way around the room here.
Nice.
You'll notice that immediately walking in, we have the light switch to the main basement to turn it on and off, very easily accessible. Up and out of the way, so with, to avoid accidental contact, there's an emergency shut-off switch. It'll shut off any of your boiler system from just outside the door, so you don't have to walk in and get involved with that. Then we can kind of see the overall fire alarm system. Right next to the switch is our pull station, so if you were to notice something started, you can run out of the building and quickly pull down right where it says pull down. We'll also notice that there's smoke and heat detection up on the ceiling here.
Is that somebody knocking at the door?
That should automatically.
Oh, you guys are early.
Automatically detect the fire as well.
And I'm sorry, this gentleman walked in and just took us away from. So what are you pointing to right here?
This unit here is a heat detector that will go off automatically if there is a fire after I point as well. So it's not necessary to hit the fire alarm unless you see something ahead of time you want to alert everybody faster. All of this ties back to this main fire alarm control panel. It was installed and programmed by Wall Design Alarm Systems. That may or may not change in the future who takes care of it. But as you can see on the screen here, all of their contact information is on the LCD screen.
Yeah.
This is a locked system, but maintenance should be provided with these. If not, we can get more. When we open this up,
something falls out. That's a lotto ticket.
Yes,
so that'll be the winning number.
Lotto ticket. So you shouldn't have to touch anything in here. The only thing that maintenance may get involved with, if there is an alarm or a trouble situation, the only thing you should do after you get approval from the fire department, you do not want to touch this panel until the fire department allows you to do so and they say it is clear. But you can acknowledge the issue. The top button here, hit acknowledge, and then silence the alarm. You do not want to do that before the fire department gets here, because that might give people a false sense of security. And we need to make sure that the fire department makes that decision. If there's just a trouble in the system, if it just comes up on this light here and says there's a trouble and it gets solved, you can go ahead and hit the reset. But normally that would be done by a service technician. So I would say only buttons the maintenance should be looking at is acknowledge and then silence after the fire department gives approval to do so. The other thing I would point out is this screen, if there was a problem or a fire alarm condition, it'll list it here. If there's multiple, it'll only show one at a time, but you can use these up and down arrows to scroll through the issues so you can see what it is. Maintenance may want to use that, for instance, if it says trouble with a certain detector, or you have multiple troubles, you can scroll through and see where that is located. There will be a general description of what that is and where that device is located. Other than that, everything in here should be done by a factory trained technician.
Okay, so let's just talk through what devices are tied into this panel.
Okay.
So I think we have our sprinkler flow,
Yes.
our sprinkler tamper.
Yes.
We have the heat detector that you showed us earlier right here
Correct.
is tied into this panel. And these pull stations.
Yes.
Or this one pull station probably.
Yes, the only actual devices are here in the mechanical
In this room.
The head out in another location may go off, causing, if you look over here, we have sensors to pick up the flow of water. If this goes out and wherever the head breaks, water will begin to flow through here, tripping this sensor.
Let me just, I'm just going to turn that off so we can hear.
So if any head breaks anywhere in the building, it'll cause water to flow through the sprinkler pipes, which will trigger this flow switch.
Yeah.
And will trigger the fire alarm panel to call out. So all the actual fire alarm equipment itself is located
Right here.
right here in this building, either right here or next to the fire alarm panel.
So where's the tamper switch? Let's look at where that is.
The tamper switches are these little butterfly valves here, also colored in red to indicate fire alarm. And those will not cause an alarm, those will just cause a trouble if they are not in a fully open position. They should always be in a fully open position unless someone is working on the system. And if someone's working on the system, they should notify the fire department that that is happening, so they know when that trouble goes through that there's a qualified person on site. Basically, they'd act as a fire watch at that point.
Gotcha.
If anything went off, they'd call it in personally.
And how this is wired, it looks like these elements are tied right to this.
These all come down to these are called monitor modules.
Yeah.
They tie to the fire alarm panel and monitor connections. This is, for lack of a better term, the smart board that monitors an open or closed switch down below and tells back to the fire alarm what is open and what is closed.
Okay.
And to wrap up with the fire alarm notification, we have a horn strobe, so it'll actually have a light that flashes in an audible horn sound to notify you of a fire alarm condition. There's a very similar looking device in every unit as well to notify the tenants to get out of the building safely. And that leads us to the Mass Zero radio box. I don't know if you recall the antenna on the peak of the roof outside. It ties back to this box, which you can see is connected to the fire alarm. So when this detects a fire alarm condition, it signals the radio box to go send a signal out through the antenna and directly to the fire department. And this should never be touched. You should never have to touch this. This is a couple of points I would like to point out. It is battery backed up. I believe it's at 3 hours or longer that this will operate without power. So you should never have to touch this. If this were ever to get knocked loose from the wall, there is a pendulum sensor in here that if it is crooked, it will sound an alarm to the fire department and they will get called out immediately. So that's something to be careful of. You don't want to be moving anything around in here and knock this box. You're going to have nothing but troubles there.
Excellent.
I think that wraps up the fire alarm.
Okay. You want to
Sure.
do a little general deal here?
Move on over to our power distribution here.
Hey, Peter? Peter?
So as
Okay,
you
go
can
ahead.
see, this 4-inch PVC conduit coming here is the main power feed that goes out through an underground system and ties into the transformer outside. Those come and terminate into this Terrace cabinet here, and there's a 400 amp 3-phase disconnect. If there was to be a fire condition in the building, the fire department would want to get in here and shut this off, or if for whatever reason you wanted to shut down the entire building, everything inside here, this switch would shut off everything all at one time. If you didn't want that to happen, you want to stay away from that switch as well.
There you go.
If you lost all power from a power surge or something, I would check this breaker first, make sure it's pushed all the way off and all the way on. Directly connected to this through bus bars in the back. It's all your tenant load centers. They all are labeled very nicely for which units are which. And they also have their own 2-pole 100 amp service to each individual unit. And this would be the same thing if you want to shut off each individual unit or you lost power. You're going to want to either shut this off or check to make sure it's on, depending if you want the power on or off.
Okay.
And then very similarly, this is connected internally as well, is your owner's meter. This is a 3-phase meter, and these are single-phase tenant meters. So that's the size difference, and you have a different meter here. and you have a 125 amp three-phase disconnect here if you had an issue with the whole owner's panel.
So this is everything on the owner's meter would be everything in this mechanical room as well?
Everything in this mechanical room, all your exterior lighting, your fire alarm, power to your fire alarm system, and anything like that. But I think it's mainly everything in here for the site lighting.
Yeah.
Is probably your biggest load there. Then this is connected through conduit and wire to the owner's panel. And we have a nice panel schedule here to show you what every circuit is, as long as our temporary label is here, which we left in place because it's a little bit easier to read. And that has everything from the boiler, you see all your boiler pumps, your lighting, sump pump in this building, your basement lighting, and we have a ton of spares for you guys in the future. So
those are all spares,
yeah,
okay.
if anything was added in the future, we have plenty of space to expand in this building.
And this also has a disconnect?
This also has a panel disconnect itself as well, just to kind of double protect it here. There's also a service outlet here for any needs working in this area. And then that brings us just to the site lighting. So that's all your building lights and your pole lights that are tied to this building all operate off of this time clock. It is fairly complex, so I'd recommend not playing around with it without fully understanding and reading the directions. It's a little bit easier to follow step-by-step written directions than to watch a video here, but just a brief understanding. You shouldn't have to touch this ever. It's set up to turn on and off, both by time schedule and the photocell that we pointed out outside. If it were to reset and the schedule were to be lost, the first thing that you're going to see is it's going to flash 12-hour right here. You can either leave it that means a 12-hour clock format, so you have AM and PM, or you can click mode and it'll say 24-hour.
Okay.
And then I'll go to a 24-hour clock, military time. When you select your current option, you hit enter. As you go along through the programming process, nothing is saved until you hit enter. So you want to do that in between each step. After that is selected, you will be asked to either select an astronomical time clock or program time clock. Astronomical is set by the standard rising and the setting of the sun. That's usually a little more complex. I don't recommend that unless you're familiar with that. Or you can program events. So once you get to the events screen, we have an hour and a minute and a day button. And you select every time it turns on and off is a single event. So Monday morning you want to turn on at 7 a.m. You would select the day being Monday, the hour and the minute, and the event toggles between an on or an off event. So if you wanted to turn off at 7 a.m., you would toggle to an off event click hour until you get to the 7. Keep in mind the AM and PM setting if you're in a 12-hour format, and click enter, and you run through the whole thing. You do have an option of having it be Sunday through Saturday, or you can set a Monday through Friday schedule to cut down on the number of events. But it's just a long, tedious process of going through. And I do recommend having a chart and Monday through Friday, when do you want it to turn on, when do you want it to turn it off. Write that down, and as you're going through you can check it off, and that's just a little helpful thing to get it in there. But this should be all set for you. If you have a short power outage, it will save the program, so you shouldn't have to reprogram it unless there's a major occurrence. But again, it's just a tedious process you can go through, and there's a lot more information in the manual. But that's a little brief overview, and everything's labeled very well in here.
Perfect.
And I think that wraps up our portion of the tour, unless there's something else.
No, I think that's pretty good, Tim.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.